Today we're going to talk about mortgages in retirement, and specifically, should you bring a mortgage into retirement? Now, I really don't think there's a black and white answer, but what I do think is that you should understand the trade-off. For example, I might come to you and go, you know what, by you holding on to that mortgage, I know it's one extra payment, one other thing you have to think about, but it's like a $600,000 decision over the course of your lifetime. You might go, whoa, I didn't know it was that big of a deal. You might go, you know what, based on my interest rate and this and that, it turns out it's only like $100,000, which is a lot of money, but over the course of my lifetime, I'm just going to sleep better if I didn't have a mortgage in retirement. And yeah, I'm still going to be okay. So I know, of course, I could have more money by keeping the mortgage, but I don't want to. And by the way, sometimes I tell my clients, yeah, I don't want you to have a mortgage because you are going to sleep better. And they're like, oh, thank God. I was hoping you were going to say that. Other times I'll say, no, I need you to keep a mortgage. I want to educate you at this level. And here's why. And they're like, oh, I see the importance. And some people would rather work a little bit longer so that they don't have to have a mortgage. Other people go, no, I just want to be smart about this. So I'm going to show you how I would think through it. And it's because of a listener who asked the question. So here's the question right here. I'm not going to say who it came from because they asked to be anonymous, but you can see I'm blocking it out here. Their subject line was retirement mortgage or not. They said, hey, morning, Ari. Really enjoy the podcast and real life scenarios. I have an interesting question and wanted to get your input on pros and cons. I'm single and will be retiring next year before my 58th birthday. I'll be selling my house and downsizing while moving to Florida. I'm estimating $350K in proceeds from the sale. The house I'm looking at is about $400K. So very cool. Right off the bat, considering retirement at 58, good for you. Here are the details. Brokerage account, $710,000. He puts parentheses hero account. Comment below if you know what he's referencing. Now, if you don't know, I'll tell it to you right now. In my podcast, I will say there's something called the superhero account, which is a brokerage account. It's not going to give you a tax deduction up front. It's not got all this cool tax stuff, except it actually does because you can do tax gain harvesting and pay 0%, but let's save that for another episode. The point here is it allows you to retire early. So here he is. He wants to retire at 58. Let's assume that he didn't want to use the rule of 55, which means you can tap into your 401k at age 55. Well, if he didn't want to use that rule, where else would he go? I would even argue if he had the ability to use that rule, don't use that rule. Because if he starts pulling from his 401k, that's going to increase his income. If he pulls from a brokerage account, even if he has healthy gains, he's paying capital gains, not ordinary income, which is a whole lot more effective. So he's got $710,000 in a brokerage account, 1.7 in a 401k, 150,000 in a Roth account, and then 90,000 in an HSA. He also says, I want to spend 7,000 a month. Now I'm going to assume that's 7,000 a month after taxes, adjusted for inflation. Here's his question. The question I have is either pay off the new house in full or take out a mortgage, call it 20% down, and invest the remaining. I'm expecting an interest rate of 6.5%, mortgage amount about $2 a month. I'm struggling with reducing my monthly expenses by 2 or expanding the brokerage bridge account for additional conversions, trips, expenses. I remember in the podcast from March on the 23rd, you would invest as the market is getting 10% over time. Not sure if that's the same advice with interest rates increasing. Would love to see a scenario. So here's his real question. Ari, should I bring in a mortgage into retirement? Because these are the years that I really want to spend and enjoy maybe more travel and there's healthcare costs and I want to be able to spend and do what I want to do. But wait a second, I know it's going to be helpful if I'm smart about this. Maybe I shouldn't just go pay it all out in full because I could get a mortgage. And what he's saying is, let's assume I pay 6.5%. Well, if I pay 6.5%, but I'm getting 10% over here, then it's a no-brainer. The problem is we don't know if it's going to get 10% every year. In fact, it never has. It gets an average of 10%. So he's saying, I already have a healthy brokerage account of $710,000. Does it make sense to essentially take out a mortgage instead of paying it off in full and then using those dollars that don't go pay off the mortgage and put it back into the brokerage account to help out with Roth conversions, more trips, stuff like that? Now, I'll tell you my kind of gut feeling. I already have my answer, but I want to show it to you guys so you believe me. So gut answer is he already has a really healthy brokerage account. He's already in a really comfortable position. I'd start with, okay, what's going to cause essentially more peace of mind? And if you're like, listen, I'm just going to sleep better not having that mortgage and dealing with it, even if there's a financial trade-off, which, by the way, I will show you, sometimes I'll even lean in that direction for clients. Sometimes I'll say, hey, if you were just a total robot, which you're not, you're a human, what would you do? I think that's the question he's asking here of, hey, if I'm taking emotions out of this entirely and I want to do conversions and spend more money, like what's the optimal way of doing this? So let me show you that right now. Now, if you don't already know, my name is Ari Taublieb. I'm a certified financial planner, host of the Early Retirement Podcast, and vice president at Root. If you're looking for more information like this on mortgage planning, tax planning, investments, how to be strategic with an early retirement, you're in the right spot and I invite you to subscribe. Lastly, before I show you this, if you want this tool that I'm going to walk through right now to show this gentleman the analysis, you can get that in the description of this video. So if you just click in the description, you will see you can get this same software and run these projections on your own. All right, now let me show you what's going on. So now we're in the portal. You can see here, I'm just naming him Dan, and he's going to retire before his 58th birthday, so kudos to him. We already put all of his assets in. You can see, I don't know, but I'm sure he has some amounts in checking and savings account. I'm sure he's got different stuff going on. I just put the information that he shared. 710 superhero, 401ks, Roth accounts, HSAs, and then I put another line item here for house proceeds. So really what he's saying is, I've got $350,000. What should I do? And I'm going to walk you through it. So once again, he wants to retire, spend $7,000 a month. Kudos to him. I don't love doing it that way. I'll just be honest, not because it's bad, but he's not going to spend $7,000 a month every single month for the rest of his life. What I'd rather do is go in here and go, okay, what about healthcare? Let's add that in. What about, because you've got healthcare expenses from now until 65, and I want to layer that in as an additional expense. What about vacations? How much would he love to take? What about potential helping out with children or a niece with a wedding, which I don't know if he has any, or nephew, or now this is the big one, is are we going to buy a new property, which I'm going to show you how to do this in a second. What about any giving? Is that of importance? So I like really going, are we going to buy new cars every 10 years? This way you're retiring going, yeah, it's $7,000 a month, but what if other stuff comes up? So right off the bat, here's what we're working with. Here are his assets here. It's about $3 million. Now that's including the home proceeds. And it looks like he's on track for $10 million. Now he's not, let me be clear, because $10 million won't be worth $10 million in the future. So we have to toggle this on and go, okay, $10 million, still going to be a lot of money. It's the equivalent of $4 million. Now let's assume he has no children and he already said he's single. So he probably doesn't want to die with $4 million. So right off the bat, before we even talk about buying a new home and what we want to do, what I want to show him is, hey, you're on track. Like, you're in a good position, moderate growth throughout retirement. You want to spend $7,000 a month. I don't know what he's doing to a 401k right now, but I just put an assumption in here. The reality is, even if we turn this off because of where he's at in life, it's going to make little, if not no difference, because he's retiring. So that's why it's showing zero. Now, if he said, I want to work until 59, and we put some basic assumptions in here, what a lot of people do, and I don't want Dan to do this, but they go, wow, that's going to help out. Yes, it helps out, but how much is enough? And I don't want you to just go, yeah, wait till 59, one more bonus, 6 more months, and then you keep pushing it back. So here's my point. Assuming Dan goes, I feel good, I want to do this, I just want to know, do I get this mortgage or do I not? Here's how to look at it. So we want to go in here and we want to add essentially a new goal. So we're going to go in here and go, okay, we want a new goal. What do we want to do? Well, we're going to want to buy a property. We were going to want to do something. And the question is, okay, are we buying it entirely? Are we going to do a down payment? And this is what I want to show you guys so that if you're playing around with this tool, you understand how it gets used. So let's call it new home. And I'm going to call it dream home. He mentioned that he would thinking this new home be about $400,000. Well, he's going to Florida, so he already shared that with us. We want to make sure that that's updated in here. And he said $400,000. So let's just show him right off the bat. Let's just assume he buys it outright. All right. Now, I don't know what property taxes and insurance are going to be, but let's just assume, super simple here, no interest rate, doesn't have a current home. So this is irrelevant because I'm assuming he already has these $350,000 of proceeds. Now he's just going to do a down payment. So if he buys a $400,000 home, that's all I'm showing. Super simple. Here's what his plan is going to look like. Yes, there are fewer dollars. I mean, here we are right now. He's buying a $400,000 home. So now he's on track for, instead of $4 million, $2.6 million. You're like, wow. I mean, that's significant. That's a big difference. I go, yeah, he's still on track. And I bet he doesn't even want to die with $2.6 million. So this is right off the bat, good to know. So here he is. If he wanted to go buy it outright, he would have $2.6 million. So the question is he going to end up with more dollars by doing that or by getting a mortgage? So let's use some basic figures here. Say he wants the same $400,000 home, but let's assume he puts 20% down. And I'm going to say it's a 6.5% interest rate. Okay. I'm just sample here. So now all I've done, you're like, oh, did you change 400 things? No. All I've done is said he's buying the same home, but he's doing a down payment, and you can see a mortgage rate here. Now, this is what I like to, and of course, 30-year term, 50-year 15-year term, appreciation. All of this you can play around with on your own. I'm just giving you the simple example. So remember, he had 2.6 million before. Let's see what he has now. Whoa. Okay. So let's see what this number says. 2.734 million. Okay. So let's take a pause and understand what just happened. He could have $2.6 million left over at the end if he bought the home, never worried about it ever again. Or he could have $2.73 million left over, $134,000 more dollars, but now he has a mortgage. So the financial answer is yes. What you should do is absolutely get the mortgage. Is that what I'd recommend? No. It's such a small difference here, and he already has such a healthy brokerage account. I would recommend he pays it outright and doesn't worry about it. Now, I can hear some of you through the screen already go, hey, but financially, you just showed it would add more money. Yeah, I know. But he's going to sleep better if he doesn't have to worry about it. It's one less thing. And now I would even argue, well, what if he wants a nicer home? And this is what I would like to do with him, is I'd like to say, hey, Dan, which is not his name, but in this hypothetical, let's buy a nicer home. You don't probably want to die with $2.5 million. What if we're buying a $600,000 home? Okay, let's assume you get a mortgage on a $600,000 home. What does that mean? We'll get a $600,000 home. Well, now you're on track for $2.1 million. Now, what if you bought a $600,000 home but did not get a mortgage? 100% down payment. Now let's look at what that would do. Well, right off the bat, now you're going to see, oh, that's kind of a bigger deal here. So now it's 1.8 million. And so hopefully what you just recognized, as the value goes up of what you want to purchase, you're putting more dollars down. That's more dollars not growing for you. So if we're buying a $400,000 home versus 300 versus 600 versus 1.2 versus 3, it's going to be more valuable to get a mortgage as the value of the home of what you're putting down increases, because it's less money that's able to grow for you. So this is a tool I want you to be able to play around with. If you're wondering, should I get a new property? Should I not? What if the year changes? What if they don't want to get it until 2028? And you can see that's the change I'm making down here. Well, now what you're going to see here is it's giving us more years for your money to grow. And then yes, eventually we do want to get it, but now it's $2.2 million at the end by waiting a few years versus if we do it right now. If you recall, it's $1.8 million at the end. You can see in the proposed here. So because there's a healthy brokerage account, because there's already a healthy superhero account, I want to go to Dan and go, Dan, here's the reality. The reality is you're in a really good position. You absolutely are, you're retiring with confidence, which is awesome. The question is, are we buying the mortgage? Are we not? It's not a big deal. Now, it is a big deal because I'm about optimizing and I want you to, but I want you to weigh in your head, are you just going to sleep better and not worry? Because my favorite story is a client came to me and they're like, listen, I think I can retire, but I don't like the idea of having a mortgage. I go, great. Here's what it means. It's a difference, as I would have shown Dan, of about $134,000. In their case, it was a difference of about $73,000. So I said, please go pay off the mortgage. You're going to sleep better. They're like, thank God. That's what I wanted to hear. Other times I'll show, hey, that's a $700,000-$800,000 decision. And if you want to retire early, you can absolutely, pay it off, but you don't have my green light. I'd rather you work 3 more years if you want to pay it off. If you're like, no, I want to stop working now. I just want to do this the right way. Well, then that's where I'd recommend getting a mortgage. So all of this is really possible because of the superhero account. If he didn't have that, I would be more in favor of saying, hey, get the mortgage, because even if it looks like it's not a big deal of $134,000, it is a big deal because now you have more money that's going to help you bridge the gap, which, by the way, you're going to spend more than $7,000 a month because you have your energy and your health. It's going to then decrease. It's then going to shoot up again. I want you to be able to go into a software like this and go, hey, what if my spending does look like that? What if it's more of a little bit more and then a little bit less and then it shoots up again based on the average? Well, it's not perfect, but it's an average and it actually shows even more dollars. You're like, well, what's going on here? Well, what's going on is you're spending even more when you have your energy and health. Then it comes down, then it shoots up again. Well, these are the types of things I want my clients to be able to play with. And this is what I do with my clients, but I want you guys to have access to this as well, which is why this software is available to you. So guys, that's it. A quick one, semi-quick, on mortgages in retirement, how to think through it and downsizing. And I want you to be able to play around with this tool. So if you want this, I make it very affordable. I want you to be able to have fun with this. So that's why I do it. Guys, anything else for if you whether it be a mortgage, of course, you can email me directly, Ari@rootfinancialpartners.com. I'm not promising I'm going to do a case study in your situation, but I'm promising that I will look at it and I will determine if it makes sense to help the most amount of people that I can do, which is why I do this. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed this. If so, please like this video and share it with someone that you want to retire early with. It's more fun to retire with friends. So guys, that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you next video.